Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Hotline League. If audio is a little off, I apologize. We're relying on Twitch chat to help us get to a better spot, but what isn't off is the amount of League of Legends esports action that we're going to be breaking down on today's episode as we discuss the amazing last weekend of LCS, and we get hyped for next weekend as the regular season is just 6 days from being completely over and we head into playoffs. But we had an amazing weekend this weekend of games. The audience was insane on Sunday. I really want to thank everybody who came up and said hi to me. I walked out. Listen, my ego has taken quite the beating in the last several years, I would say. And this week, I walked out to the first time in a while that I'd seen the LCS audience packed. And somebody started like a Travis Gafford cheer where like everybody in the audience cheered for me. And I was like, wow, it feels like it's 2014 again. Either way, we're going to talk about things that aren't my ego on this show for the most part. And to do that, I'm going to introduce my co-host, Cubby. Cubby, how's it going?
I'm good. Let's see. We had some interesting playoff scenarios and challenges this week. I pulled an all-nighter because I decided to be up for when the markets open today because that was wild. So I'm a little bit tired today, but all is well. It was
is all as well if you're waking up and looking at what the market was doing today?
Yeah, it was the market once it actually opened went up a little bit, so that helped to make sure that we were able to actually go to bed.
Gotcha. Yeah.
No, all was good. I didn't make it to LCS this week. I've actually yet to make it to LCS this year.
Really?
It's a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit. Sorry, this split. It's a little bit tougher because every other day I'm pretty much on challengers, so it's kind of hard. I have 50% of the days, and there were more closet days this year. But I saw you posting about the filled up crowd, and always reminded that weekends are better for getting people in the building. So
weekends are better, and hype matches are better. I mean, I think just everybody knew that they wanted to see the C9TL match, and it is such strong evidence of what happens when you have two brands that have a great split storyline going into battle. And a series that really delivered, I feel like. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What else has been going on with you, Cubby? Anything interesting?
Not much. Wrapped up the House of the Dragon finale last night. I won't give any spoilers. All I'll say is that it was a good season of television. They make good TV over there. And then not too much else. I mean, this is the really busy part of the regular season for me. I guess it was busier last week because LEC was wrapping up, and I went through all of LEC this year, or this summer, I should say, just to prep for the jungle. So it was kind of nice having that break, I guess. But I didn't do anything too interesting or entertaining besides cook a little bit. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying your show, which I refuse to watch until I'm confirmed that
it's not on this week, Travis.
Yeah,
this is the one. I got all my eggs are all in this basket, and I'm excited for this episode, actually.
Yes. Well, and I'm really excited because after months of begging, Emily Rand has finally given in and has agreed to come on Hotline League and run back the Rift Reaction cast with me. Emily, welcome to the show.
Except you won't let me talk about other regions. Someone could call in and why do KT suck? And I'd have an answer. But
should we? I mean,
this is an LCS show.
Let me ask you: should we talk about the faker stuff on this episode, or are we trying to? Is the general sentiment that people are trying to not talk about it?
I mean, if someone has a take on it,
yeah,
I can give my outsider opinion that I'm not sure. Yeah, it was a scheduling conflict as to why I was not able to be here. You make it sound like I've been dodging you over a year or something. But yeah, no, I'm happy to be here. I saw someone already responding with the bring back Rift reaction. Shout out to you. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm really happy to be here after this particular week because I think it's a cool week to talk about League of Legends, especially after TL C9 match was and did deliver not only narratively but in my opinion guys. And additionally at the final week of the regular season next week. So
Yeah.
it's
I do
it's an
hear
interesting time.
your audio is breaking up a little bit intermittently. I don't know if your Wi-Fi is weak or something, but we're getting a
Oh, I
little bit
hope
of
not.
warbling. So I don't know if your Steam is downloading an update or Genshin Impact or something. But
I am
I
not
just wanted
downloading
to
anything.
flag. But either way, it's great to have you on. Yeah, I agree. It's a great week to have you on, and we're going to talk about some really cool stuff. Before we get into the rest of the show, I do want to give a shout out to NZXT, Prize Picks, Kia. And joining us for this episode, we don't normally have 4 sponsors on the show, but I'm excited that we're going to have, for this week's episode, NordVPN joining us as well. So we'll talk more about that over the course of the show. I messaged Cubby about it earlier. He did not reply. So, oh, wait, he sent a 100 emoji.
Yeah.
Okay, he did reply. I just missed
Heard, as the
reaction.
kids say, Travis.
Oh, heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heard.
All right. Good. Well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Either way, it's super excited to have NordVPN on, and it's great to have all of our sponsors on. So it's been very nice to have the support of some really cool brands after what many people remember was a very dry start to the year as we were making some changes on our end, etc. Oh, by the way, I did a members-only video. If you're a YouTube member, which means you pay, I think the cheapest tier is $2.99 a month, you can see a video that I did where I broke down exactly how all the sponsorship stuff went down over the first half of this year, and also just in general what my philosophy is on sponsors. I think some people would find that stuff very boring, but I think some people do like to hear kind of the inside baseball of it all. So, yeah, if you're interested in that, you can go check it out. Either way, we're going to talk a little bit about this past week. Emily, you did some casting, I believe.
I did.
How was that? I mean, I know this is not your first time doing it, but I continue to really enjoy having you on the cast. What was it like for you this week?
This week was another NRG match where they kind of had the game in hand for a bit until they did not. This coming week I'll be casting a full match, which I'm really excited about. So I won't be dipping after game 1, which will be really cool. And yeah, I mean, I feel like overall I still have a lot of very obvious weaknesses that I'm trying to shore up. But in terms of being more comfortable and confident in a cast, I feel like that has increased exponentially, which is really nice, because there were times where I was afraid that I would just let my anxiety get the better of me, and that would kind of ruin things. But thus far, it hasn't, which is very cool to see that my stubbornness has won out, instead of being really anxious about just being bad and failing. So yeah, you didn't ask for a therapy session.
No, I would just say it's been very fun to see you on this path for a while, Emily, because I mean, I remember coming to TGI, you were like, I only do writing, and I was like, okay, now you're going to do camera work. Then you started to do it in earnest at ESPN, and then you were nervous. I feel like now you're a staple on the LCS broadcast. You've been doing Worlds. Now this year you've been doing casting. I mean, I'm happy that you are recognizing that you should keep doing this stuff, because I think along the way it's been clear that you've been just kicking ass every time you take on a new challenge at this stuff. So it's been great.
You've always passed the knowledge check for me, which is all I care about, Emily. So, you know, everything else is just gravy after that.
Yeah. Well, regardless, Chronicler's on the chat. He's shouting out Emily.
Yeah, Emily knows her stuff. It's always good. Yeah.
Mao has to listen to me complain a lot about LCK, especially KT.
Yeah, it's been rough over there for KT.
I just feel like, why are they doing this? Or just generally, if there's like a really, really egregious composition error or something like that, I'll just message him and be like, why is X team doing this?
Hey, as a Cuz fan, Emily, it's been especially tough this year.
Ooh, yeah.
It was hopeful in spring, and it has not been hopeful in summer.
It was hopeful for like 2 matches.
Yeah, it was. I was on the train, though. I love Cuz. Yeah.
I like Cuz, too. I think a lot of like KT fans, I've said this before on Making the Rounds, I think a lot of KT fans kind of unfairly maligned him a bit. not that he like always performed insanely well while he was on the team, but I always thought he bore a brunt of criticism that I did not think he necessarily deserved based on his gameplay.
Yeah, it was just like when you're on a Cuz team, it's a Cuz team, you know? So I think that's why.
Yeah.
But yes. Anyway, are you enjoying the other region talk, Travis?
I love it. It's great.
Already following his
Now I feel guilty because I want to cut in with like here's what my life has been like lately. But then a bunch of people are going to be like, well, wait, we were talking about League of Legends.
What's up? Travis, you asked me about my week. What's up with your week?
Let us know. What's
new and
going
exciting?
Oh god, now I'm on the spot. I went 3-0 in a Friday night draft last week at the LGS, and so that felt really good because I crushed kids, and then I went 3-0 in the TGI draft that we held at FlyQuest the other day, so that was really fun. So really enjoying that. Magic has definitely been the focus for me these last 2 weeks since the new set came out. And then I should say the non-League of Legends focus because Magic's like a hobby for me, so it's fun to kind of invest into that. And then the other thing I've been doing is I've been helping my friends over at Command Fest or at Laughing Dragon plan the LA Command Fest from a creator perspective. And we recently announced that's happening next week, and I'll be at it. But we recently announced Iffy is coming from sort of the D&D and Dropout world. Brian David Gilbert, for people who know him. Becca Scott, Karen Han, Atrioc. There's a bunch of cool people coming that I was able to wrangle in. So it's been fun to sort of stretch my my hobby and learn some other things like all this creator stuff. It's been fun to do. So that's been what I've been doing outside of League of Legends this past week. But enough about non-League of Legends things. Let's get into League of Legends things because I can't, I don't want to blab too much about my hobbies. Either way, I know we talked about other regions. What if we talked about LCS? What did you guys think of LCS this weekend without going too far into it because we'll need to talk about it during calls?
Yeah, I want some calls. I hope Shopify makes playoffs. We're throwing it out there now, Travis.
Dude,
that's the one.
I messaged Emily earlier and Mark to be like, is Shopify out? Because I swear to God, on the cast that Jat was doing, he was like, oh, yeah, man, I don't want to see this team go out like this, blah, blah. I could have sworn, and maybe it's just that the odds are really slim because I think there has to be like a tie situation for them to get through. But or at least that's what Emily was saying the Foldy sheet looks like. But
do you want me to? Because there are a lot of scenarios. Basically,
yeah, need the
break it down.
Yeah,
first.
they need to 2-0.
Yes.
And then it's dependent on like basically they need to 2-0 to either force a resolved tie with 100 Thieves or force because if TL win then they 2-0, there's then a 3-way tie. But there will be a 3-way tie between, I believe. Wait, this might be resolved. No, it's unresolved. And then, okay, I need to see what the italics were for score of victory. But basically, there would be either an unresolved or resolved ties. It's on the Foldy sheet is public.
Yes.
So yeah, it's basically like they need to 2-0 and then some other stuff essentially has to happen. But even if like say NRG 2-0, if they 2-0, they are still in because they essentially kick 100 Thieves out through a resolved.
Oh, that's crazy. So 100 Thieves is not even secure yet.
No.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought for sure that they were. The tiebreaker stuff is so complicated. And I don't mean that as a complaint. I think it's just an artifact of us. This is the first time that we're doing best of threes this way. And so but it's very fascinating to sort of understand how all the breakpoints are.
Well, welcome to every split of Challengers League. I had a playoff scenario wrong for like half a broadcast this past week because of like this wild tiebreaker scenario. But yeah, anyway. All good.
Was that you reliving some trauma there for a second?
Yeah, I felt really bad.
Like
I didn't fix it. I didn't fix it until like game 3. I was like, yeah, this team still has a chance to make it, and then I got to game 3 and I'm like, oh yeah, they're actually out. I'm sorry. Like they're in.
That's rough.
Drama's gone. It's
yeah.
fine.
I mean, it's so awkward when teams have to play. I get it, but like it's so awkward when they have to play after they're eliminated. Because obviously, I guess for those that have not been paying attention or are unfamiliar, Immortals is already eliminated, and I do think. Okay, so as we're talking about things that we can talk about on the show, or if people are looking to call, I think there's an Immortals take that could be interesting because I do. My God, Prize Picks is not running anything for this, but if Prize Picks was, I would encourage folks to go consider putting some plays on the idea that that Immortals will not be here next year, which is like
I thought you were gonna say something else. Never mind.
No, I was gonna say because I feel like you were talking about the upset, the potential.
Yeah, I was gonna say upset potential because they're gonna do the NA special where like
once you get eliminated
for nothing. Yeah, they have no weight on their shoulders.
But Emily, I thought NA always plays for nothing because we can't win internationally.
Anyway,
True.
I was going to say that I feel like this match that we're going to see this weekend will be the last time we ever see Immortals in the league because I just don't. It's like really hard. Cubby, you tweeted this out. You tweeted out the record. What was the record exactly?
Media tournament results, where since they came back into the league as a franchise, it's been 10 splits. They made playoffs once with the Revenge roster with Gilioto and Ray's Destiny. I believe it was Insanity mid too, because I was doing the audio only broadcast that split, and Xerxes. And that's the only time they made playoffs, and their best finish outside of that was bottom 2. Maybe it was an 8th once when there was a 10-team league, but that would have put them in some playoff scenarios. So their Leaguepedia is pretty tough. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. So it's hard to imagine this team continuing to persist in a world where we know 2 teams are on the way out. So I feel like it's pretty Jover. But that's probably worth a conversation because I don't know, just crazy. I'm trying to think of other times where we have known it is a team's last game in the league.
TSM.
Yeah, TSM.
Yeah.
And then last year, and then I guess maybe when franchising first hit, but yeah, I don't know. It's just wild. And it will probably be or potentially be another team's last split. I guess if Shopify goes out, they'll.
I mean, we just don't. Like, it's worth knowing that, or worth saying that we don't know who's in or out, but I think that with the original franchise agreement at this point, the owners could have forced Immortals out given their finishes, because there was a rule in there where you could flip a partner or have a partner lose their spot if they were bottom 2 or didn't make playoffs for a certain amount of splits in a row. I forget what the exact criteria was.
I think it was 3 or 4 years, and so they I don't know. I forget the exact one, but I agree.
Yeah.
I know they were eligible last year, I believe, and then they continue to exist because their name is Immortals, but they won't be Immortals for much longer. Regardless, we can talk about that. We can obviously talk about the the Cloud9 Team Liquid match, which I thought really delivered. Was really excited about that. We talk about playoffs predictions as we get into that in just a couple of weeks, and yeah, it's just gonna be a good time all around. So that's the show. Cubby, do you want to do a spiel on how you get on the show?
Yeah, if you guys want to hop in, drop your take in Discord, discord.gg/Travis at Cubby, and I'll pull you into the waiting room where we will go one at a time. I will say there's 1 or 2 good takes that I wanted to pull, but you are not sitting in the Discord, so if you want to be pulled, you do have to sit in the Discord so I can see you. Every once in a while I'll at someone, but yeah. So if you guys want to hop in, call in and talk to Emily, Travis, and myself, go for it. And I think we have a lot of good topics, mostly game related, Travis. We don't have much news besides I do think it's worth noting Tomo stepped in for 100 Thieves and helped them out this week with their wins. So I think that's the one piece that we missed out on highlighting that I think is worth a topic if people want that. But yeah.
While Cubby's getting everybody into the waiting room and maybe grabbing the next caller, or the first caller, I should say, we're going to take a quick break to talk about this week's episode. For this week, exclusively, we have NordVPN joining us. You'll see them on the stream as I stream in other times throughout the rest of the month. But for this episode exclusively, they are joining us as a sponsor. And I got to say, folks, there are a lot of common cybersecurity threats out there these days. Especially, I've had to worry about this stuff doing content creator stuff, and many others have had to deal with it. But I think it's something that a lot of people should take seriously. There are things like phishing attacks. There's man-in-the-middle attacks, password attacks. You can get. I think a lot of people in gaming are familiar with DDoS, especially in esports. Malware, malvertising, ransomware. There's all these different things that are out there as you are browsing the internet, and it is really important to take precautions. And I know you all have heard about NordVPN before, because if you have been around in the space for a bit, you probably have heard of them. But I do want to talk about them because there are a lot of different benefits for with NordVPN. You can become safer online with a single click. It is the fastest VPN on the planet. Your traffic is always protected with robust encryption, and they have things like Threat Protection Pro, which because most VPN providers now offer an online threat protection feature. However, under the hood, it's simple DNS filtering. But NordVPN's Threat Protection Pro offers advanced digital protection from malware and online threats. It checks download files for malware, blocks malicious websites when you click any link, removes pop-ups and ads for a smooth browsing experience. It's got dark web monitoring, where your many data leaks, they normally go unreported, which means hackers could have their hands on your credentials right now. But the dark web monitor from NordVPN continuously scans discovered hacker hangouts and immediately alerts you if your details are up for sale. It's got NordPass, which you can use to keep your passwords close at hand, even if you're offline, making your digital life safer and simpler. And a data breach scanner, which alerts you before damage is done with the built-in NordPass premium feature, which will scan the web and inform you if your sensitive information has been exposed in a data breach. So either way, really appreciate NordVPN for coming in. You can get NordVPN as an exclusive deal here where you get 4 months extra when you use nordvpn.com/Travis. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. And you can use !NordVPN right now in the chat, both over on YouTube and on Twitch if you'd like to get a link to sign up for NordVPN. Really appreciate them. I think having folks sign up, if you all feel like it, I'm sure will potentially allow us to work with them again more in the future. So appreciate you all supporting the show and appreciate NordVPN here. Ooh, we just had somebody join the channel here at the end. I don't know what that noise
dragged
was.
him in.
You dragged them in? Yeah.
It's the first caller. I prepped it
I'm
during the
wondering
ad
if it
break.
came through their speakers, so we're going to find out if there's a crazy audio situation here. But again, thank you, NordVPN, for sponsoring the show. All right. Mogul here. Mogul, where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from the DC area.
Good to hear you're calling from the DC area. What would you like to talk about on the show?
Yeah, my take is that APA will be, and arguably already is, the best NA mid that we've ever seen. Native NA mid, just to be clear.
Okay, interesting, because
already?
This
already.
is...
Oh, arguably already. There's
so greater than Poe Belter. Greater than Poe Belter is what you're arguing, like already.
Yes, at the moment, yeah.
Pretty much,
in my opinion.
Okay.
All right.
Expand.
Well, I mean, you need to kind of think about it just pretty simply here. No other NA mid has ever beaten Faker in any game, let alone multiple games, right?
Okay.
I agree with you. I agree with you there.
I got in trouble on this line of logic as the jungle this past week. Medic said that Broxa was the second best jungler in EU because he is the only other EU jungler to make a world final. So, I was called out for not, combating that at all. So I'm gonna have to actually push back on this one a little bit. Is that it, or do you have more?
Continue your thesis here.
Who else as a native NA mid would even be up there other than Poe Belter?
Well, that is a good point. You'd have to go back to BanCloud.
High had a really good run.
Got a shout out on broadcast this past week because he played Draven mid.
Based ManCloud.
2013.
Back when he had the bleed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think high is up there, depending on what you value in a player.
Yeah, it'd have to be high.
Looking
Fox
at
1.
Jojo Pyun.
JoJo,
I mean,
yeah, but
APA
APA
has
clears
beaten
JoJo at this
JoJo
point.
in every single important match since he's joined, so he's
Yeah, but I think you can be the best North American mid laner and still have somebody who beats you, right? Like, I don't think
Can you?
that. Like, let's say
people say
fucking
Beer's better
JoJo goes
than
and wins
Jojo
Worlds,
now
beats
because
Faker
Beer
down,
can beat
and
him.
then just loses to Palafox a lot. I don't think that means that Palafox is the best NA mid.
I mean, I will say, I actually did pull this after the games for C9TL, thanks to the stats person that works LCS. It was a personal question. I asked for JoJo's win rates against mids to see if APA has the best win rate against him. APA is 8-4 against JoJo so far in his career, which I find quite interesting because as someone that followed both those players throughout Challengers, I would have had that record flipped based on what I saw. So yeah.
So, anything else, caller, or should we just dive in?
I mean, you can dive in if you want, but like,
I'm just trying to make sure you have your platform to say this because it's a very big statement.
Yeah, but like, it's even like just on his trajectory as well. Like, he's not having a sophomore slump at all at the moment. If you really think about it, like he's in the sophomore year now, and most mids or any talent really has had sophomore slumps that are very visible. He's not even coming close to one at the moment. So his trajectory is really high, and based on just the accolades alone, he has the trajectory to become the best NA mid ever easily at the moment, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Even
I
if
mean,
he's there already.
It's one thing though, like trajectory versus the now, right? Because Pobelter still has 3 titles under his belt. He played in the 4th final too. Pobelter was a part of the best run that we've seen in LCS history with TL 4-peating, as he was the mid laner for the first part of that. Yeah, I feel like I still would give the nod to Pobelter now, but I think that APA, like if APA were to, in his first 3 splits, like so let's say at the end of this split, he has 2 trophies in 3 splits and went to Worlds, his rookie split, that would be a hell of an opener to a career. I don't think you can take it away from Pobelter yet, given he did have some longevity in there on top of 3 titles.
Emily, what do you think of this?
There's 2 different parts of what you're saying. I think the ending part of your take, which is that essentially that APA's kind of meteoric rise and like current trajectory is setting him up, like this is a harbinger of what's to come, right? He will become the greatest NA mid. I can see where that's coming from, and I also want to point out something that I can't reiterate enough about APA's personality and ambition. It's that it's so fucking high. Like, he is such a grinder. Even when people were like, he's not LCS level, those same people, if they had worked with him, would always point out he is more than willing to like go above and beyond to do the work. Like, he takes feedback like a sponge. He will watch other regions to get to know what they're doing. He will grind the fuck out of solo queue. He will try to learn whatever you like tell him to learn.
He's very hard on himself.
He is incredibly hard on himself in a way that like is very, I guess, recognizable to anyone who has any sort of like perfectionist tendencies, where it's like, you did really well, and then he'll always be like, but I didn't do XYZ, and that would have made this perfect, right? That would have made this way better. And I don't think I've come across talking to him when he's been like happy with his overall team performance, but I don't feel like I've ever talked to him when he's not had something critical to say about his own performance, even when his team has won and he has looked very good. So that's one thing that like I cannot stress enough is such a important part of anyone's personality who wants to be the best at whatever they do. You need to be self-motivated, and he is incredibly self-motivated, and that's not something you can like teach someone to be. It's just typically something that you are or you are not. And it's also something that like the best in any sport, generally they will have this tendency. And it's a, you know, a marker of someone who is the best in whatever they do. It's that tendency is typically there. If you're talking about currently, I still say it's probably pole belter, and then I think a lot of people will give High a nod only because when he came up and the time he came up, he really changed the way that people in North America thought about League of Legends and the way it was played as a 5-man unit. And he did his most to kind of study the game and how to improve his team overall. And I think that is also really valuable. I personally currently would still give the nod to Poe Belter, but I can see why, if someone valued like impact on early League of Legends and the way that people in NA looked at League of Legends, they would give that to High instead. But right now, APA just has only been around for a year and like not even, right? A year?
It's a year. He came in basically around this time last year.
Because he came in around
Right
this time
before,
last
yeah.
year, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So
I think it's a year and
yeah.
a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because when APA came in, I feel like when it comes to players that have been promoted from challengers, some have been easy hits. APA and Yawn were not, and the thread I always gave them was I was glad they stuck with those players because they always preached hard work, and those two embodied it, and it's paying off for them now. But pretty much like everything that Emily said, when APA came into the league, I said I don't think he's ready as a player, but I think he's ready as a person, and I really feel like that's paid off in the long haul. As APA now, it's wild to think like when he came in a year and a week ago, and this was the split where like everyone was like in playoffs, you know, why are you typing? You're the worst player on the team. You're losing your team games. He didn't have his best worlds, but now it really feels like he's winning his team's games, and this typing feels like just an extra slap across the face to make sure it, you know, feels a bit heavier. I think the other interesting thread here would be, what would APA have to do for you, Emily, to start to claim that he's better, like, or to move him number one on the list? Because honestly, for me, I think longevity is a question, but like if he wins LCS and then TL goes to like quarters at Worlds, I mean, he, like, for me, he's already up there, you know, as best native mid. I just think that would almost notch him better than Pobelter. Like, you would then be able to say that no one had a better year.
That's so crazy though to say that like he's better based off of
1 year,
two trophies, 1 year, and like making it out of groups, you know.
Like the ramp they've had, and going back to back, like that is something that only Hive would have done, right? The back to back into quarters at Worlds, and they didn't even back to back that year.
But also, I feel like there's a difference between like which mid laner has the best record in a 1 year period versus who's the best North American mid laner of all time. Like I don't think that those two things overlap directly. Like I'm going to pass it back to Emily because I know you asked her this question specifically, but for me, I feel like, you know, he needs another 2 years of consistent play, because there have been many times throughout the years where we've had a player pop up and everybody was like, this is the next main character of the LCS, and then like the next year they have like a complete wash and never recover, and then they go down to Academy, and then maybe they bounce back up, and then that's it. So like I don't think that's what's going to happen with APA based off of everything I know about him, but like I think that there's more of a test to clear before he gets the crown that our caller is trying to give him. Emily, for you, what do you need to see from him before he becomes this?
Highly value longevity, and in terms of like strong individual performance. Obviously, if TL makes incredible noise at Worlds, that will shift that timeline. It'll make it shorter a bit. But greatest NA mid of all time still has to have, you know, a certain breadth of experience for me. and the ability to kind of become a mainstay in multiple metas and continue to perform at like a consistently high level. That's not saying, I feel like he has, like, I obviously, if you couldn't tell, respect APA a lot. And I think he has all of the tools as a person to be able to do this. I just think it's been a year.
My point of like the winning and going to quarters of worlds was that it would give him the first notch over the other two players we have in the conversation of he did this and the other two did not. Like for me, that like he's not even in the conversation yet, but for me that actually gets him in the conversation. And I think that he does need more time, but if you go back to back and then go quarters at worlds, neither TL or Pobelter on TL or High were able to do that. And that would be pretty impressive. It would at least be like a start, you know? He needs more time, though.
Yeah. Looking at Twitch chat and YouTube chat right now to see what they all think. Some people say, like, we need to see him play against more than just T1 internationally. A lot of people say more than 1 year. A lot of people talking about how maybe at Worlds he didn't look that great last year, so we need to see how he does this year. Yeah, so just seeing a lot of different answers from folks. So definitely, I don't think he's there yet. Here's what I will say though. I think that, in my opinion, APA is the main character of this LCS season.
He is. It's crazy.
I mean, is there anyone else? Emily, can you think of anybody else?
No, he absolutely is.
And I think that is really exciting. And it's fun because I feel like last year it was JoJo. And I just feel like APA like showed up and took that crown from him, and so he's kind of the star of the league right now.
I would have never had that after watching the 2 in Challengers. Like I mean I have a lot of respect for APA too, but like just like the raw, like, you know, what we saw from those players in lower leagues, like JoJo for me was always like the guy, and it's really wild to see APA like close the gap and also overcome him like in all the big matches they've had so far. So I would have never had, like, I really didn't have that, like, based on the tape I saw. It's crazy to think that APA is the main character to me. It always really is.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see him. I did an interview with him, which is up on the channel right now, and I love his answers. He's always so good in interviews. I think, Emily, you were did you interview him, or was that Jat that interviewed him this weekend?
This weekend it would have been Jat, right?
Because you did an interview. Oh, you interviewed Blabber, I think, afterwards, right?
Yeah, I interviewed Blabber.
Gotcha.
That was a good interview too. I love talking to Blabber. So
yeah, well, both of them were great. And what was very funny was when Jat interviewed APA, you interviewed Blabber, and the 2 requests I had just put in for that was Blabber and APA. So those are the interviews that are going on the channel. It happens so often where I submit a request and the broadcast has the exact same person. First they do.
Requests, Travis, we don't know that we're sniping you.
Yeah. Neither did Mark when he made pros. Anyway, thank you so much to our caller here for calling in. Anything that you want to add here at the end? Do you want to defend anything that you were saying that we've kind of shot down?
Well, at this point, I think like it's fair to say that he needs a little more time to really solidify that he's getting there. But just based on his work ethic and the fact that he has the support structure to get him there as well, right? Like, I don't think TL is going to let him down. You know what I mean? Like a lot of players of Arsenal have been let down by their teams over the years. TL doesn't look like they're going to do that. At least not anytime soon.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really like having players like Core and Impact on that team, I think just give him a stable foundation to really flourish. So,
Exactly.
But in the interview I did with him, which is up on the channel, everybody should go watch it. I asked him who he thought were the best mid laners in the league and what he thought of him and JoJo. And I will not reveal that information now because I want people to go watch. Either way, thank you so much, caller. Anything that you want to shout out here at the end?
Yeah, shout out to the LCS Discord. They're the ones who cooked up this take and had someone take it. So shout out to them. Leo is one of the best people there. Add him with all your stats questions. He's the GOAT.
Yeah. I think the LCS Discord is nice, but it's no TGI Discord, is what I'll say. The TGI Discord is filled with angry,
we actually
toxic
have the
individuals.
commissioner. We have the commissioner of the league in here.
That's
Does
true.
the LCS Discord?
Mark is in this Discord, so and he's not in the LCS Discord. So which Discord is superior? Thanks so much, caller, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Take care.
I really expected the caller to stand up, for the LCS Discord after we were making jokes, and so now when he didn't, we just sound like jerks. Specials in the chat. He says, I've been impressed with APA's ability to play his niche picks at a high level while picking up the meta champs in this last year. And I would say it's always nice to see a new viewer in my chat like Special, who I think is I've never really seen that name before today, so it's nice to see that this individual has decided to start becoming a viewer of the show. We welcome you, Special. Maybe you can learn something about LCS on this channel. All right, we've got.
It doesn't say first message, bro.
We've got another caller.
All right.
You should be pretty insulted now at this point, honestly.
Special has
you should
sent,
go in on him.
Special has sent Special's first message was because Special had sent only one message prior to today. His message just now about APA's ability to pick his niche picks at a high level, that was today. The only other message he has ever sent was in July 2018, so more than 6 years ago, where he typed simply, "Deftly is hot." So,
true.
Just trying to get that
Not
out
wrong.
there. All right. Cloud is here. Cloud, where are you calling from?
I'm also calling like the previous caller from the DC area.
From the DC area. What would you like to talk about on the show?
Well, now that we're done with the boring teams, I'd like to talk about the more exciting teams. So I'm going to talk about how Shopify is going to make playoffs, and I have a few scientific.
Cloud, why are you a Shopify fan? Because for those that don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was like, Shopify is like more boring Immortals or something like that, and Cloud tweeted including and tagged me in it, and it was like, I can't believe Travis wrote this, blah 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 blah. And then I think everybody replied to him and was like, nah, Travis kind of has a point. So I just tried. I did not know you were a Shopify fan. Why are you a Shopify fan?
All right. First, in my defense, that wasn't the first time you said it. So that's why I actually tweeted that out. But I'm a Shopify fan for a few reasons. One, I was a big TLO fan back from StarCraft. I'm a Revan fan. And I like the model that Shopify is like playing with. I talked with a lot of other people, and they're really about fans first. You might disagree, but I think that that's the direction they're going. We've had really cool signings like Simu Liu, who's like probably the biggest signing any esport.
Dude, the Simu Liu thing is okay. Sorry, finish, and then I want to talk to you about that.
Yeah, no, they're trying to set up like Toronto to be like the hub of Shopify, and they brought someone from Toronto to be like, the face of Shopify, and they have plans with him. I know it hasn't come out yet, but I'm excited for what they're trying to do.
All right. Did you know that Simu Liu went to like the Team Liquid facility last year? I think it was.
I saw that briefly, but I don't think they did anything with it.
How does Simu Liu? Okay, one of my biggest frustrations with the franchise era, and I've talked about this in previous videos, is that I feel like teams spent money on things that do not improve fan experience. So they spent a ton of money on things like that, and they are not the first team to do these like collabs with like celebrities that don't have anything to do with esports. And I know Simu Liu likes StarCraft and stuff. I saw him on stage when I went to the Game Awards this past December, but like, how does signing Simu Liu help increase the experience of the average Shopify fan?
I think it's more about like Canada and what they're trying to do with Canada and hiring like actual Canadian talent and doing like activations with him. Like they have watch parties for Game Changers. They do have plans on like including him and things like that. So it's more of maybe not necessarily online. So like us in the North America, or not North America, but in the US might not feel it, but at least their goal like in Toronto and like the Canada region is I mean, we can wait and see, but from what I've heard, like they do have plans to have him improve the Canadian scene.
Hey,
I'm excited to see how he improves the Canadian scene.
I got you on this, Cloud. TL has Avengers merch. Shopify Rebellion has an Avenger. Easy.
Oh snap!
See
I
that
just,
that
like,
phrase
I
right there,
don't-
Travis. That's worth millions.
I just don't understand. It's like,
Worth
it's
millions.
so classic franchise era of just like, let's blow some money on this random partnership with a celebrity so that we can all say we're hanging out with a celebrity and not actually, like, there are so many things that they could do with that money to actually increase the value of like a fan experience. And I just feel like this is like, I don't know, it's just so goofy. Like, like Rick Fox, I feel like is one of the few like situations where I felt like a celebrity came into the space and actually did something cool. Like, there's just, everybody remembers like random traditional sports athlete who's like, so like, oh, here's a, what was it, Steph Curry with a TSM jersey on or something and tweeting like, oh, I invested or whatever. Like, I just don't. It's just a pet peeve. I'm sorry. I'll shut up. It's not relevant, but it's just.
No, I completely agree with you. Like, if Shopify don't do anything, they will not hear the end of it. Like, I will, if they just sign him and do nothing with him, like what TSM did with, Steph Curry, or what they did with Hikaru when they signed Noah doing the chess boom. They did nothing with him. Like, I'm frustrated with that too. I think you're pretty valid in your, like, frustrations.
Yeah. Like, I just, like, help, spend that money on, God, how much do we all think they're giving Simu Liu? $500,000 to be a brand ambassador for them? $1 million? Like, what if instead they sponsored, or they spent that money bringing the LCS finals to Canada? Like, hey guys, spring finals was going to be in the studio again because we have no money, but now it's actually in Vancouver or Toronto or wherever the Shopify stuff is, because we care about our Canadian fans and we want to bring the LCS there or something. Like, obviously that's just one example. I'm not saying it's like the most financially reasonable thing, but I also don't know if like Simu Liu is the most financially reasonable thing. Like, I'm sorry, I saw that partnership and I just ignored it, but then you said it and it like triggered this response in me. So let's get back to Shopify. Go ahead, Cloud. What's up? What's your take here?
We play against 100 Thieves. We have to 2-0 100 Thieves to make it to playoffs. And I have breaking it down to exactly how we're going to do it. Our players, I know you hate the way we do this when callers come in and talk about every single player, so I'm going to do exactly that.
Could you just speed
First
run
of all, yeah, I'll speed run. B-Boy is so much better than Tomo. The only reason people think Tomo played well is because Tactical misplayed and he just got caught by Tomo, and everyone's like, oh my god, Tomo's great. Everyone kills Tactical. Tactical gets caught by everyone. B-Boy's going to smash him. Boogie is the hero we need but don't really deserve. Fake God has disconnected. Real God has connected. And as a famous singer once said about the Shopify mid laner, insanity is my clarity. So, yeah, we're just going to win all across the board.
Yes. Let's get hyped for Shopify Rebellion. Yeah.
Let's go.
Woo. Okay, legitimately, I kind of want to see this team in playoffs. I feel like they're playing better than some of the other teams in the league right now that are likely to be playoffs, but it might be a little bit too late in the day for them. And I will say, 100 Thieves, they're beatable, but I think that Tomo gave them a nice honeymoon phase from the looks of things this past week. I don't know what you feel like, Emily, but yeah.
Regarding 100 Thieves, I still think the issues that they have playing in this meta and their just general discomfort with it, in particular, around, I think for me it starts with like jungle XP changes, to be honest, in terms of what you're giving up if you're interacting with your lanes super early and playing a more early favorable jungler like River prefers, I would say. And I actually, interestingly enough, despite the fact that I also think Boogie has looked really good in this meta, especially on the brand, he can sometimes suffer from this too, because he will also occasionally punt camps to help out his lanes a lot. He's a very forward, like super, super aggressive, invading jungler. He just plays very, very forward. If there's like hope for Shopify, I think the ways that they got ahead in the most recent series, in the FlyQuest series, a lot of that was due to their bot 2v2 winning, or alternatively FlyQuest's bot 2v2 being pretty, let's just say, either needlessly aggressive or like positioning forward when they really shouldn't have to try to contest the wave, and giving B-Boy and Zazel a lot of opportunities. I think where the rest of Shopify comes in terms of making the most of those opportunities is that, especially like in the second game, I think you see they get the kill around like 2 minutes. And then Boogie is immediately down there to regank. You also saw something similar essentially in the first game when Shopify contest at Grubs, end up winning that team fight, and then Boogie is up in top lane around 8 minutes, if I remember correctly, to gank and get a kill for Fake God. So I feel like if Shopify's opponent is making mistakes early, Shopify are actually surprisingly good at punishing that. And a lot of it comes from like either their laners being in a good position to punish, or Boogie recognizing exactly where he can be on the map to punish, which I think is it's a good thing for this team to have, right? And it's something that's been a staple since Boogie rejoined this roster. And it's something I just really like to see from junglers always. And I also don't necessarily think that River is going to be the type of jungler who will like hard farm up on an AP carry necessarily and punish that in the same way. However, I do think River has that similar skill and is able to punish it very, very well. So that's where I see a potential for 100 Thieves as well. It just really depends. I do think the cool thing about Shopify is that the meta suits them better than 100 Thieves.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to Insanity, because not that Quid hasn't also looked good on some of the AD mids, but this is definitely a meta where Insanity can not only play the meta AD mids, but can also throw in AD mids that I don't think a lot of other people have practiced matchups on, like the Jhin, like the Draven that we saw. And that kind of creative element is really crucial in a meta like this, where that can throw, if you can throw that mid matchup off kilter, which has been something that's kind of theoretically been pretty boring, right? Like you both lock in 80 mids, you both farm, there's not a lot of interaction unless junglers come in or unless you have like a solo kill because you messed up your matchup, and you're both scaling and you're waiting for team fights because it's a double 80 comp. So I think in that part it favors Shopify. Both teams have problems recognizing how to close games unless they have an upcoming neutral objective set up and they know that they have to fight around it. I don't think either team's setups have been, shall I say, peerless in terms of neutral objective setups. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a back and forth series. I think I would give the edge to Shopify right now going into that match, just because I do think they've actually looked better. But it's going to be hard for me to see them getting the clean 2-0 that they need to qualify for playoffs. I would like to see it because I'm also on Cubby's side, right? Where I think that the stuff they've shown us since Boogie has joined the team has been really interesting, and it would be very interesting to see that team in playoffs.
I am pretty...
Sorry, that was really long. I have a lot to say about Shopify, and I remember their games pretty clearly.
I knew when we started this, I was like, okay, great. The AC's been on for too long. Kobe is going to be unhappy. I need to go turn it off. Oh, I also need to get some water. I was able to take a nice little break and come back, and Emily had only reached the halfway point of her.
I know, right? I think I just broke down both Shopify.
Yes.
Shopify's first 2 games.
I will say a couple things. One, I do like that the tiebreaker situations come down to a world where like the best of the aspects of the best of 3 matter. Like you need the 2-0 versus like a 2-1. I think that is like kind of a fun feature or coincidence that's occurred. Sorry, last time I said coincidence on the show, Mark sent me an angry message. A fun way that Riot has intentionally planned the entire situation to allow for peak excitement levels. And so I think that's pretty neat. I also I am happy that Shopify is showing signs of life at this end, even if they do not make it, because I think it probably would have been pretty bad for the league if we had this team that just never won a single match or maybe even a single game over the course of this entire split, especially since a team that I expect to be here next year. And I like the players a lot, so I'm glad they were able to pick this up. I don't think that they're going to make it into playoffs, but maybe the stars will align for them and we'll see it. But I don't think Shopify is going to be it, even though I guess all Canadians are in love with them.
I don't know how much I favor them, because they do need a 2-0, and I feel like doing that against 100 Thieves it's doable, but it's not. I wouldn't give them over a 50% chance and say it's probable, right?
I agree.
I think the big thing with 100 Thieves is I feel like they've snuck a lot of games out by Sniper actually playing really well in the back half of the season. It's been better. And there are still games where Sniper is put out of the game early and is invisible, but the games where he's gotten a lead, like that Jax game against FlyQuest, was a really solid carry from him. I think that if I'm 100 Thieves, one thing that I'd look at, yes, Fake God had a great series, but Fake God's best champ in LCS has always been his Gnar. So finding good matchups for that, or just straight up denying that, I think is one way that I would pilot my team going into Shopify Rebellion. But I will say that if you're an SR fan, the FlyQuest bot lane had a really poor series against them, and Tomo and Ayla are new, and Meech and Ayla weren't having the best bot lane experience. I think Tomo is an upgrade from the form that Meech was in, but it still is fresh, and it's something that you can look to poke holes in and get the same early game running that you were able to get up against FlyQuest and what we've seen so far with Boogie. That said, too, I gotta say, since Boogie joined, I know that there's been the meme the broadcast's been doing about game length. It's gotten cleaner for Shopify, so if they can keep scaling, there actually might be more hope for them. I don't know. I just think that 2-0 is going to be tough. So that's the one reason I'm nervous. But I think it's more likely Shopify Rebellion can challenge some of the better teams in playoffs, and 100 Thieves is the current form they're in. So
I will just add on to that, say that my actual reason why I think we can pull off the 2-0 is I think we've overall set up objectives a little bit better than 100 Thieves. Neither one of us have done it really well, but I think Shopify have done that better, and I think Zazel has been a little bit cleaner than Ayla, who's really been struggling on his engages. So I think we have the better turn, and River did say that a big part of why they're struggling is because when he's on engage, they win. When he's not, it's very difficult, and Ayla isn't filling those shoes necessarily. So I think we have a bit of an advantage there.
Yeah. Hey, thanks so much, Cloud, for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Shout out to Mazel. He's a phenomenal caster. He's probably the best caster right now, in my opinion. He's just on fire. If you watch LPL or NACL, he's insane. If you just want to watch amazing play-by-play casting, watch Mazel.
Hey, Cubby and Emily, I think you guys are great casters. Okay, so I'm sorry.
I didn't say they were bad. I just said Mazel's on fire.
You said Mazel's the best caster.
I can't.
So play-by-play, yeah. Or not play-by-play.
You're saying both of them. You didn't specify play-by-play.
Travis is
you
trying
just
to
said
start
best
drama
caster.
where there is none. Just
Cloud
ignore
said
it,
best
Cloud, it's
caster. I'm clipping it right now.
that's fine. Everyone can have their own opinions. He's a
Yeah.
teammate, It's all good.
I'm sorry to the guests on the show for the things that the caller
Thanks
said.
for having me, Travis.
Cloud, I do want to add one thing, which is I think back in March or something, I ordered from his online dumpling thing some dumplings. So Simu pretty good at those. It was Xiaolong Bao. And the first one showed up late, and they were all clumped up, and I probably shouldn't have eaten them. But then they emailed me, and they were like, hey, we noticed they showed up late. We can send you some more. So shout out to Simu for that. He's keeping it real.
Was it a ghost kitchen or his own thing?
It's a mail delivery service. I got an ad for it on TikTok or Instagram or something like that, where it they mail it to you and it's frozen, and then like through, I don't know, UPS or USPS or something, and then you can make it in a steamer. So it's pretty good. Yeah, Retro says
I will
it's
let
one
him
of the
know
topics.
that feedback.
Yeah, of course. And I can't wait for all the value he's going to bring to esports fans for the absurd amount of money that I'm sure Shopify is paying this man. Thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, bye.
All right. We're going to take a quick break right now to talk about... Let's talk about NZXT. And you know the reason I want to talk about them is because they announced a really cool program this past week where it's called NZXT Flex. Free to play your way, cut the cost, complexity, and commitment out of PC gaming. So the way this works is you can now get a PC for as low as $59 a month. They'll send you a PC. It is you have the flexibility to upgrade or return your PC anytime. There's no big upfront costs. You pay monthly. Guaranteed upgrades every 2 years. And free returns and no cost cancellation. And you get to choose what you want. You can get the $59 a month Player 1, the $119 Player 2, or the Player 3 at $169 a month. And I think, honestly, this is pretty cool because there are some people for whom they might not want to make the big commitment to some sort of upfront situation. Maybe they've been using a notebook for a while, or maybe they are traveling for a little bit. And so, hey, I don't want to go get a big PC if I'm going to be moving to, some other place for a while or whatever. This is neat that you can actually just now for as low as $59 a month, have a gaming PC available for you, and you can just cancel it at any point in time. And again, you get guaranteed upgrades every 2 years. So this is a pretty cool system that they're doing. I like to see them providing options and availability because, again, like you can go in right now and you can just decide, hey, I want to get a Player 2, a Player 3, or maybe I want to build my own PC. I'm going to grab some components from NZXT. But for the people who are not interested in that, this is another way of grabbing yourself a gaming PC so that you can, do what you're looking to do in the gaming world or in content creation or whatever. So again, it's NZXT Flex. You can go check it out at nzxt.com. Well, actually, use the link that we have in the description. Also, I think we should have a command that is, yep, there it is. Numi put that into the chat, so you can go take a look at that. If you click that link, you can click over up at the top, and you can see the NZXT Flex option, which is underneath gaming PCs on that top banner. And so pretty cool to see them bringing this type of service to everybody because I think, again, it's difficult sometimes to make that giant commitment in the beginning. Life has a lot of different reasons why maybe you're looking to have a PC for a couple months or half a year or something, or maybe you're just not looking to make that giant upfront commitment. So thank you so much to NZXT for sponsoring the show. Really appreciate them. And congratulations to them on launching NZXT Flex. Please let me know, folks, if you end up using that service because it's kind of cool to hear about it. It's a neat idea. Okay. I think we can get into the next call. Cubby's already ran off to grab them. Shout out to everybody who's been subbing. Really appreciate it. Whenever, I know I mentioned this on last week's show, but when Twitch made subs way more expensive, well, I shouldn't say way more expensive. They changed it from $5 to $5.99. But I think a lot of people came through and canceled. And so, it's just really annoying because I think this just means actually less revenue for Twitch and for streamers like myself. So really do appreciate people who are subbing because we've seen a pretty big drop in revenue from the channel for that. So thank you to Dragosi Gaming, Zemelkai for 40 months, Treethan. We've got iNuber, Gaiden TV, Leo the Chosen for a year, Palace to Maine, Cherry Lace, and Cherry Lace at 69 months. Congratulations. King Manchi with the 5 gifted memberships over on YouTube, and we'll shout off some more subs in a second because our next caller is here. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm Sneezes. I'm calling from Philadelphia.
Sneezes from Philadelphia. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I am under the assumption, as you are, that IMT is cooked after this season. They're going to be done from the league. So I kind of wanted this to be the IMT postmortem. My thesis is IMT's biggest recurring mistake was not sticking with their players. They fielded the most roster changes in the league since they came back in 2019, I think. And the more successful teams have turned over their roster considerably less. I think IMT was like 40, and TL in that same time span was 22.
I want to give a shout out, as you're saying this, to Anero and Tactical, who are hanging out in the chat, talking to each other and enjoying this conversation, hopefully. Okay, so you feel like they changed too much. Do you want to elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think just general the thesis, right? They had a lot of roster changes mid-split. They stuck with players for one split in a few instances. I don't want to get into the details. You know, some of those players went on to stay in the LCS. Some of them went on to do academy and kind of fell off. You know, it really alters the trajectory of the player when they get dropped mid-season like that, right? So for me, it's more of like we probably have a new org coming in next season in the new format. And my advice to them would be build a roster you're confident in and stick it out. And to IMT's credit, I know it's probably their last split. They are actually sticking out with this current version of the roster. I think it's just like too late in their timeline, right?
Emily, I want to toss it over to you.
I mean, I think that's definitely part of it.
You're a little quiet. Sorry, if you can get closer to the mic.
Am I?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like eating my mic again. I think that's definitely part of it. I think generally one of my pet peeves about that I've been pretty vocal about regarding roster building in North America has just been sometimes an overall lack of scouting in terms of what team you want to put together. So when not only if you have a lot of turnover and then you don't give players a chance to actually develop and grow and improve, but then additionally, I think there's a frustration that comes from, at the very least, I know Cubby shares this frustration at times as well, as an outsider, but as someone who watches amateur and academy / NACL, and he watches it a lot more than me, so you actually should have gone to him first on this take, I think. But like, it's always really frustrating to me sometimes when teams are like, okay, this roster isn't working, we'll throw that entire thing out and we'll pick 5 other players, but you also can't see a reasoning or a like thesis statement behind why those players were picked and why certain teams were assembled. And so I think that in addition adds to a general confusion around some of these roster constructions, because like I know that, for example, Tactical as a player has succeeded in the past, and I think even now he has like pop off games individually on this team. We've seen like previously we've seen Ale have some like kind of insane performances and a really good engage sense if the rest of the team is like bought into that happening. And that is always, it is a frustrating thing to see when you see players that you know have been successful elsewhere and can't necessarily find success on a different roster for whatever reason. I think less than roster construction, once you get to that many iterations of something, you have to look at what stays consistent across that time period. And yeah, I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know what the internal discussions are. Like, I don't want to make assumptions about what goes on in like an org, but I think a lot of times when you have like consistent issues from year to year to year to year, you would probably want to look at what stays consistent over those years.
This is a discussion that we had earlier about Immortals on a different episode, about how much they've actually changed up their coaching staff, and how like Giliota was really the one piece they had that was around for more than a year. I believe they have had a different head coach every split since he left.
Every split or every year?
It's for sure every year. I think it might have been every split.
Jesus.
Yeah.
We had this discussion / realization. I remember this being a past call. I'm with Sneezes like inconsistency, and I think what Emily brings up about construction and having a theory to it is reasonable. I do want to credit though. I think that teams kind of saw what NRG did with their core and changing it up over time, and have actually tried to stick with that. We're seeing a little bit like less just team wipes, and looking at, hey, what's working? Can we keep this, and how can we improve it? And I do want to credit Immortals. Like I actually think the Kenvi roster was like a decent idea, except like Kenvi and PoE were just the worst pairing on the planet. Like they couldn't find a worse mid or jungle for either of those players to work with that like were just more outside of their play styles. I think that this is a team game. You need to build up synergy. Like in order to play at your peak, you're never going to be able to do it as an individual. And I think IMT, I mean, they had a lot of attempts at trying to build. It's just like, I don't know, nothing stuck. And there was no consistent like coach behind it who was like, this is a vision. It feels like they reset that vision a lot. So off of your theory, I do think that is correct. But I think the team should have taken this learning away from me from NRG winning instead of watching Immortals kind of like try and find something.
I'm curious, Emily and Cubby, do you think it was the coach situation? Because for me, it became very clear in the last year or so, especially with Revenge when he joined EG and had what I would say is like one of his better splits, that players on Immortals were just consistently playing below, I think for the entire time they've been in the league, have just played below their potential. Like you'd have players that would go there, play poorly, and then after play worse than they've been before, and then leave Immortals and play better. And it just started to feel to me that like whatever the infrastructure was at Immortals behind the scenes, it was not good enough to let these guys reach their potential, you know? And so it would feel bad for me when I'd see a player go there. Like I still think of Revenge as a sort of tragic story of a player in the LCS because I really liked him. I thought he had a lot of really great moments. I think when he was working with Gyoto, he worked he saw a lot more of his potential, or we all saw a lot of his potential. And then, you know, like he spent the vast majority of his time on that team. He gets out finally, and the league downsizes. And I think a lot of people just were not, you know, there was not a place for him to fall down to because Academy had been gutted, and he was not able to find a spot. And so he just went and became a doctor. We had him on the show. But yeah, I mean, what is it you guys think? Is it just the coaching situation that was the reason why that organization always brought out worse and lower levels of play from its players?
I don't know. I think it is weird though that like this is the roster that they stuck with for the whole year, and this is the best. I know that the placements in the standings don't say this, but I feel like this is the strongest team that Immortals had since they made playoffs in 21 summer.
Yeah. I don't know.
I agree.
All right. Well, I will not mourn Immortals leaving. I am sad for the people who work there, many of whom I really like, who are fantastic. I'm not going to say anybody's names, but
you're writing them out now.
Immortals?
You think they're just gone? Like that's it? They're just like gone. There's like 0% chance. Because again, like from what I've heard behind the scenes, like Immortals is not in. I know that like you know it's not like they're in dire financial straits or anything. I've heard Immortals is like relatively stable. Like they could stick around if they wanted to. It's just if the league wants them or not.
I would be shocked if they are here next year, and that is not
okay.
Like I guess I need to caveat that by saying like it's not like anyone has specifically told me like these are the teams that are leaving, but everyone I talk to universally believes that Immortals is leaving. So like it's just been taken for granted. You're the like my pause there was because I was like I guess I should evaluate what Cubby's asking me because this this is the first time you're the first person to say like, wait, you're sure about this? Because like I feel like everybody is sure about it.
So I'm skeptical about it because I think that it's so easy to like look at Immortals and just be like, yeah, they're for sure like one of the two teams leaving, right? If I look at the other orgs, Immortals has way less reason to leave than some of the other orgs in the league. And I could see a world where like if other teams, like if it's like what happened when the LCS went from 10 to 8, where they offer teams out and then teams say yes and they take it. I could see a world where other teams are more like if it's the same system, I could see a world where like other orgs say yes before Immortals does.
I mean, I believe that the way that it is, I'm trying to think of how to put this and what to say.
I don't know how it's going to work.
I believe that what is occurring is that the contracts are expiring, and that it has been, I guess, 6 years or whatever. Like the LCS agreement is up for renegotiation. And so I believe that means that Riot has the ability to choose who is there. And from what I have heard, teams are going in and kind of repitching Riot on like, here's why we are staying in the league. Here's why we want to stay in the league, and here's why you should work with us. And I think that is happening probably not just at the LCS level. It's probably happening with some of these other works, right? And I don't think that is like, I'm not trying to share that as some sort of like revelatory news. I believe that's probably what everyone would expect is what's happening. But I just don't know why. I will just say I will lose a lot of faith in this league if Immortals is still in it next year.
That's fair. I didn't know if that's the system, then yeah, they have a lot weaker pitch than some of the other teams. So that's, yeah.
I don't know. I think the other two teams that I would be worried about if I were fans of them are Dignitas and 100 Thieves. Like I think in my rankings of teams that I would be worried about leaving, I think I would put 100 Thieves up near the top right now. So we will see what ends up happening, but I don't know. We should I should actually be creating content or some sort of funny situation where it's like, okay, who are the teams that you think are out? The only reason why I don't like doing that is because I feel bad for the staff at these places, especially in the non-competitive stuff. Like the thing I was going to say earlier is that like I really like, for instance, the Immortals content and social team. I think they're really great people who do cool stuff at an org that probably undersupports them. And I am sad if those people are not able to find jobs next year, because I think they are very talented and very cool people. And so I'm just trying to be sensitive around like it's this weird catch-22 of like, I really don't mind Immortals leaving as a brand. I am really sad for the people who will be affected by that. So Emily, you're very quiet right now.
I mean, I don't like speculating publicly about this stuff at all. Like, I know nothing, so
Okay.
I will give a shout out to IMT content though. Their content has actually it makes me sad whenever I see like how few views it has on YouTube and stuff, because they've been doing some like really banger content with their players, and I wish more orgs would do that. And IMT, in terms of like content that they're putting out, is kind of doing all the right things and really showcasing their player personalities. And yeah, shout out to them.
Yeah, their content's been good.
Yeah, I agree. All right, thank you so much to our caller here, Sneezes. Anything that you want to add or follow up on?
No, I think the energy model is good for, get your core and then build it out. I hope that's what the next orgs do. It'd be cool to see, and it'd be nice to see some promotions from some successful NACL teams to help fill out that new roster.
Yeah. Anything that you want to shout out here?
Yeah. I want to shout out to my homies on Blue Otter. They made playoffs, doing really well. I'm gonna just chill for a second. Samikin or Levitate should be Rookie of the Split, and music should be Most Improved Player. And Uncle Phil should be Coach of the Split.
We don't give out the latter award, but I can tell you that Levitate and Music are both in the conversation. And also, for those that don't follow NACL, Blue Otter were a new team that are rocking a lot of rookies, and they took down both LCS affiliates and Team Liquid and FlyQuest the past couple of weeks. It's been a big story.
the best like NACL story. It's been really, really fun to follow.
It's been a really fun split of NACL, I will say. Yeah.
It's been really fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep up the good work, man. And thanks for calling in.
Oh yeah, full disclosure, I'm assistant coach over there. So yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm showing my homies. Yeah.
Please declare your allegiances. Thanks
Sorry
for the
about
call,
that.
and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
All right. I think we can take a quick break to talk about Prize Picks. Thank you to Prize Picks for sponsoring this week's episode of Hotline League. In the Discord this week, we saw a lot of different people posting their different lineups. I want to shout out one person, Leo, who ended up winning with a 2-pick lineup. They did they played a $15 power play where they expected Jensen and Sven to get more than 16.5 kills in the first 2 games of their series. They ended up getting 24, so crushed it. And then they also predicted Quid and Tomo to get more than 17.5 kills in the first 2 games, and they ended up getting 23. So
They did the combos.
Yes. So big ups to Leo for that win. Listen, folks, if you're getting into, or as we're getting into playoffs, I think it's a great time for you all to try Prize Picks. I really appreciate everybody who does. Numi just pinned the link up at the top of the chat, but you'll also find it in the description of YouTube as well if you're watching the VOD or in the podcast stuff. You can use code Travis when you sign up, and it's really cool. It's been fun to see when you do go hang out in the Discord and have a conversation about what plays that you're making or who you're picking for your lineups every week, because it's been really fun to see how people are deciding to play and who's people will share like, oh, I won mine or I lost mine, or you see some people who, King Manchi had a 3-pick power play with Vulcan, Jojo Berserker, and Impact Umpty and APA all as the different picks that King Manchi was playing. $25 power play ended up making they are winning $93.75 off of that. So it's been fun to see how everybody decides to play, and you see some people who are like, I was so close. It's just a fun way to see everybody engaging. So again, thank you to Prize Picks for sponsoring. Cubby, you said you had been making some unfortunate picks on the Olympic side, I think.
Yeah, I lost my Olympics picks. I did find one though. I had it was golf. I had Scotty Scheffler with less than 67 strokes. He shot a 62 in the final round to take home the gold.
Wow.
So best golfer in the world. I also had Tom Kim under. So we had a little bit of fun with the golf there.
Nice.
And congrats to Scotty on gold. That's cool. If anyone likes dominant athletes, look into who Scotty Scheffler is as a person and what he's been doing in the PGA Tour this year. It's been almost historic run the year he's had in golf. So
yeah, it's been fun, and that's an example, by the way. Not only can you play, I was talking to somebody who's like, oh, it's not just League of Legends or it's not just esports. Yeah, you can go play traditional sports, you can play Olympic stuff. They've got all sorts of cool stuff happening over there. So thanks, Prize Picks, for sponsoring the show, and thanks everyone who does sign up. Signing up for Prize Picks, making your first time deposit is honestly one of the best ways to support the show and make sure that we can continue to do this stuff, especially as looking to head off to Worlds. Please do so responsibly when you do. Thank you so much to Prize Picks. All right, let's get into our next call here. Cubby's gone off to grab them. Some more shout outs, I should say, to the people over on YouTube and Twitch who are subbing or sending super chats. Thank you to 504 Caesar for the $9.99. Bug Juice Reviews for the membership. 11 months of support to TGI on Teachers Pay worth. Thank you. Feel free to take a break on that anytime. I appreciate what teachers do. Adam, thank you for the 3 years. Reconsider, thanks for the 11 months. Bowen with the 500 bits. Cytone SC for the 2 years. Let Go My Lego, thank you for the 4 months. Chris Million gifted 5 subs. Purpose, Chris Million. Thank you, everybody. We got some more we'll shout out here in a little bit. But our next caller here is here. It's somebody named Chronicler. Chronicler, where are you calling from?
Hello, this is Maurits from South Korea.
Oh, from South Korea.
From Seoul.
That's not a very South Korean name. I don't feel.
No, I'm Dutch.
Oh, you're Dutch. Okay.
Currently live in South. No. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I'm here to talk about why the LCS should stop importing LCK Challengers players because they suck.
Gotcha.
We ruin the league in the long run.
Yes. Okay, great. Okay, so give me an example of these Korean players
All
that are
right,
ruining the league.
I will quickly go through my arguments. So first of all, the only reason to import them in the first place is hands, because these players have no brain, and the hands they will lose after approximately 3 months of North Korea or North American solo queue.
North American solo queue, yes.
Yeah. Secondly, extremely hard to integrate due to the fact that there's a huge culture clash, right? These players come in, they're young, they're inexperienced, so that's going to take a long time for them to actually work. And we have ample examples of that. Look at Berserker. Only like a year and a half, washed, only cares about money now. Thanatos didn't solve anything for C9. It's just a Renekton one trick. Mask and Castle are on Immortals, which I feel like that one kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah,
So
we
I
were
think
just talking
that-
about them probably leaving, so.
I know, and I don't want to point any fingers, but they are on that team.
Yes.
So I think that GMs and coaches should instead look at local LCS players and care about NACL. Look at APA and Yawn, great success story there. Macro-oriented players, like older LCK players, I think Snowflower is a great idea, or players who are more easily integrated, like players from the European ERLs.
Gotcha. Okay. Fantastic. I really appreciate this take. I think I love it whenever we are able to bring players over from regions, and I guess I would just disagree with you, Mr. Caller, because I think that what this league needs is less North American talent. I think that if you look at the league over time, we do not find any success. I think APA, whenever we run North American talent, I think APA is carried by players like Umpty and Core JJ and Impact. And the league, I think, for me, I feel like we don't bring players in and out of the league fast enough. What we should be doing is almost a situation where every single development player in Korea comes over to the league, plays for at least a couple weeks, maybe a split if they're lucky, and then we immediately send them back and swap them out for a different player from the Korean development leagues. Because I think that's the only way we're going to find success internationally, is by just rotating these players in and out of the league as fast as possible, giving them very little time. Because listen, it's a slot machine situation. You just have to spin the wheel as often as you can to find the next great great Korean talent for North America, and that's the way we got to do this. Also, by the way, the team owners are right. Why even run a development league in North America when the Korean teams will do that for you? You're just able, it's called arbitrage, people. You're creating a more efficient system using currency differences. And so just let all those other teams over there do the development for us, take their players. I don't know. I appreciate the call, but I completely disagree with it. Cubby?
Amazing.
Where do I even go from here? Let's see. I would you prefer if we take LDL talent? Is that proper?
No, because it's the same issues. But I think LDL is obviously better than challengers. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Getting. What do you think, Emily? Are we gonna keep on getting out there?
I was gonna say, I would love to see an all hands no brain off between LDL and LCK CL. That would just be so supremely entertaining to me. I'm gonna turn a bit of this into a slight serious take.
Oh. Wait, this wasn't serious?
So, because I'm boring like that, and Mao already knows this. He knew what he was getting into coming in. I will say this. I think, once again, that my issue when it comes to these things is always scouting overall and how prepared you are to integrate a player onto a team, right? So, in terms of looking at Mr. Chronicler's original take, I think there are a few things that do stand out as things that if you're actually looking, if you are saying, I either do not want to put in the time and effort to scout North American talent and try to recognize where people are very good, because they are there. It's like anything where even if it's a smaller overall number of people, the cream will still rise to the top. And if you can train those people up, it will still be it can be very successful for you. It's just going to take more effort because the NA solo queue environment already off the bat does not prepare you as well as the Korean solo queue environment. I feel like everyone can admit to that. But I also think like you do need to have a team with a good enough infrastructure to make sure you're actually putting in time and effort to scouting the players that you want and have a reason for that, knowing that their hands will eventually succumb to the NA solo queue environment, because that will be your primary practice environment for the majority of the year until you're able to go boot camp internationally. And then I think it's about having the right infrastructure within a team to integrate someone onto a team, or have someone with someone that you already know, which wouldn't be a challenger player, but someone, for example, if you're looking at UMT, his personality is one that I would say is like pretty well prepared to travel to a different country and actually get along in a different team environment, regardless of the culture shock. So I'm spinning it into a slightly serious take. I also think that Thanatos will be fine, even after this week, where TL, to bring in partially some analysis, the TLC9 series, I thought TL actually had a really good plans prepped both within the swap and like how to take Thanatos out of those early laning leads he's been having. This is not what you wanted in response to this take at all. I can hear Travis like falling asleep right now. Mao is grinning though. I can see it on his face.
I'm giving Mao what he wants.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I can't see him in front of me, but he is grinning. Ear to ear. I can see it. I can see your stupid face, Mao.
I think we need more.
Stupid
It's very
face,
rude, Travis. Is this how people are always treated on your
Yeah, I'm sorry. Emily, we haven't had her on the show for a while because she tends to get toxic with the callers. But yeah, I apologize.
Rough.
Yeah.
No, it's okay.
Chronicler.
I appreciate it.
What if we grab Moham?
I'm
just gonna start.
Don't you dare, man! Like,
I'm gonna start
honest to
threatening you
God.
with your favorite players. Where would he fit in LCS? You know?
Actually, I would like to draw attention to some of the up-and-comers. I don't know if you guys have followed T1 Academy at all. As familiar?
Oh, yeah.
T1 Esports Academy.
I know where this is going.
You're talking about Griffin, right? The NA talent that we sent over to LCK. Yeah.
No, but because he's playing in Tier 3.
Yes,
but
he
if
is.
you look at Tier 2, there are a couple of players on T1 Esports Academy. Mid lane, you have Poby, who you might have known, filled in for Faker. And more importantly, towards the bot lane, you have Smash, which is someone I'm willing to sacrifice for the greater good. And Reckless, might not know, a new up-and-coming support player, has been performing admirably.
Nice. What is Reckless's backstory in the Challengers League in Korea?
I do not know.
Okay.
But he's been.
He really came out of nowhere.
He has great KDAs, Travis.
He's on the radar.
I feel like his English is really good.
Oh.
English interviews with her every single time. And he always smashes it.
Nice.
So I'm just saying.
On a serious note, Chronicler, what is there a general, do fans care whenever these players come over to North America? Is it something that only sort of the industry elites or the esports talking heads talk about or acknowledge? So what's the sentiment?
Genuinely, I do think that compared to when I started co-streaming Challengers 3 years ago, the level of interest has skyrocketed to an insane degree. I don't think that's only due to the fact we had the English broadcast obviously last year. I think a lot of that comes down to Cadril and the fact that he's been co-streaming specifically T1 Academy. And then the fact that Reckless obviously joined the league. But Korean League of Legends also has had a couple of good years, right? With us winning Worlds. and winning MSI recently as well. So I think there's just a continued higher level of interest. And the reality is that with a lot of the leagues consolidating and the gap between Korea and China growing, that I think the interest in where these players come from. I think Quad, for example, is another really good example of a player that's had a really insane even though he's not Challenger specifically, but like has had a really insane backstory to get where he is now.
But do fans, so I shouldn't say do fans care about the players. I mean, do fans care whenever they get stolen away to North America? Like, is that a conversation point? Are people frustrated with
for
LCS for
fans,
taking their players?
For sure. Well, they're not frustrated with the LCS, right? Because there's also a big sense of frustration, which I think is more so warranted, that there are players that felt like they could have been the next big thing in the last couple of years. Thanatos is obviously the dream example, but he's not the only one. There's been more that performed really well in Challengers and then never made it to the LCK, even though there's players in the LCK that at this point should have been phased out, which is something that I'm sure LCS fans can also relate to.
Yeah. Like, I know you probably wanted Rahel in the pro leagues.
Really good. Yeah, June, I think, is also June, who obviously was part of an unfortunate situation with the finals, but June has only played in the LCK together with Taeyoon, who unfortunately is just a considerably weaker player individually. And that's the type of stuff that I think I would have liked LCK GMs to look past, but that's also not really realistic, unfortunately.
So it's not really a situation where people are like, because for a while, LEC was really frustrated that we were like poaching their talent, both, at the higher and lower levels. But it sounds like that's not a conversation that really occurs in Korea around like the LCK Challenger players coming over here.
I think it's because the LCK is still doing really well. So like
vibes are good.
Vibes are good, right? And I do know that Genji Arnold's talked about this. There is a lot of LCK teams feel like in the long run there is going to be a problem with talent, even with how popular League is still in Korea.
Yeah.
Down the line. So maybe in the long run it will become a more systemic and like more integral problem that will have to be solved, but we're not even remotely close to that yet.
I mean, you have so much talent that they're coming over here, so
but Challengers is still looking great.
I'm excited to hopefully I get to catch up with you at Worlds this year. I guess both you and I have to figure out if we're going, but I'm hoping that we can catch up together, and it's great to have you call in. I know that it was only because Emily was here, but I'm glad to have you call into the show.
That was part of the reason, but it's good to catch up. Thank you very much for having me.
Anything you want to shout out before we say goodbye?
Please listen to Carly Rae Jepsen. She's great. I would recommend Psychedelic Switch. I think that's a banger. Runaway With Me is the classic, but I've been on that one for a while. And thank you as well to NordVPN for sponsoring Travis so that we have a fun call-in show. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Emily, you didn't even say goodbye to him. After your stupid face comment, you got quiet.
Maybe I kind of feel bad for saying that now.
No, you shouldn't feel bad. It was very funny.
I should have done the opposite and embarrassed him because you know how we all tease him for how hot he is, and then he gets like really embarrassed.
Yeah.
And then he hates it. Yeah, I should have done that. I like misplayed my hand, honestly.
Yeah. No, honestly, Chronicler and I share that in common. By the way,
if you insult him, he just takes it. But if you tell him how great he is, he then gets embarrassed and tells you to shut up.
No, it is an issue when people talk about how hot you are, and it's like an issue that I have faced many times throughout my career. So I understand why it's an issue for him and why he gets embarrassed by that. That's rough. Okay, I think we have two more callers here, so we'll take one more, then we'll do our final break for the evening and take one more after that. So thank you to... we got Adam X, thank you for the Prime. Example Daniel, thanks for the Prime. Mellow1, 17 months. Immortal Scrub, 21 months. Penny Swiper, Uber Butthurt, Marco Smooth, and Park Mom. Wow, Park Mom noted Travis Gafford Hater has resubbed for a month. Quite impressive to see just how much having Emily on the show brings Park Mom into the subs. By the way, folks, if you're watching and you want to send a Prime sub, you can do so by hovering your cursor over the screen. A little purple crown will pop up. It'll let you know if you have a free sub, and doing so actually does really support the show, even though they've cut the value of those dramatically. All right, looks like we got our next caller here. It is Basket O Knives. Basket O Knives, where are you calling from?
Hello there. Calling in from Portland, Oregon.
Portland. I like Portland a lot. I was sad I didn't get a chance to go so far this year. I don't think I'm going to be able to make it, but I went last year and really enjoyed it. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So, got a couple kind of quickie takes. The main one being that TL has basically, but not completely, finished removing all of the gripes or tropes, negative tropes against them. That NA is going to outperform EU at Worlds, and that overall the LCS is back to being the premier English broadcast section in terms of content, talent, and overall quality of product.
Cubby, that's going to be the standard. What did you pull this caller for?
I told him that he could just let it ride. I was mostly for the TL one.
Okay.
As I was kind of curious. I was kind of curious, like what you mean by like the tropes, or like what hits you think the community has on TL that they've proven wrong, and how.
Absolutely. So, going just again doing the quick and dirty of the rundown of the roster. For the longest time, Impact has been associated as just weak side god, can always play a tank, but is never going to carry you and win you the game. But he's going to be unshakable and he'll be fine. APA, for at least the majority of his first year, was you're only a 1-trick, you're only a 2-trick, you can only play the weird stuff. Jan had never really gotten the chance to prove himself a ton because it was always the same thing with Tactical, where it was you're not double lift, thereby you cannot carry TL. And at least my recollection is the past couple of years, Core JJ, a lot of people have just said, you're washed, you're not good anymore. Again, the no double lift, no worlds kind of trope.
Interesting. So it's funny when you said they have sort of proven out or ruined a lot of the opinions of them being, not compelling as a roster or lineup or as individuals. I thought you were going to talk about it from the perspective of like the criticism that a lot of people levied against Team Liquid for a while was, oh, they're just bringing in big name imports, or they're just spending as much money as they can, or Steve is just trying to buy himself trophies and all that stuff. And like that, I think was what I was thinking of whenever you said that, because I feel like they, like Steve was vocally against keeping the academy team requirement, and then used an academy team or multiple academy team players to prove out like the existence of North American talent in the league, and his GM and him were able to build this like really stellar lineup. And I feel like while I'm sure Team Liquid is still spending in the top half of the league, I don't feel like they did it. It's not like before, whenever they were just like, let's bring in like the biggest names ever from other leagues. Let's try to make plays for, Faker or whatever. So I feel like that is more the reputation that they moved beyond.
Well, I guess, and maybe my take was just a little bit too vague on the tech side of it, was more levied against the players, not necessarily the organization. Because just like around the teams for the longest time, like, when Impact was on FlyQuest, it was, oh man, he's such a solid player, but FlyQuest sucks and he can't carry them, but he's never gonna cost you the game, but he's never gonna win you the game. And
Sure.
This year, his Mordekaiser games, his overall carry potential that he's had, he's been able to 1v9 games. And the one player that hasn't kind of proven their trope wrong yet has been Umpty. But I believe that he will prove kind of his trope of more or less he can, he's kind of the tank duty only jungler, can only play utility, isn't very good on the AP mages right now or any of the hard carries. I think that will be the trope that hopefully they can get over, because that will be what separates them from being able to actually be the team that they've kind of self-proclaimed of going, we can play anything.
It's like interesting because I know you're giving a lot of credit to the players, and I certainly think they deserve it. But I feel like the way that the bigger strength of Team Liquid, and the APA was kind of referencing this in the interview that I did with him, is their ability to play as a team. Like, he was even citing the idea that like C9 has the bigger names, or like in some cases the more superstar players, but they lose to Team Liquid because Team Liquid is able to play more as a team. And that's not like a complete rebuttal of everything you just said, but it is a situation where I feel like it's mattered less what the players are capable of or what sort of reputations they're able to throw off, and more about what they can do as they come together as 5 players. I don't know, Emily, what do you think of all this?
I mean, I actually agree that the strength of TL is them as a team. They seem to have found 5 players that have a really similar mindset. And additionally, I think, like, for example, you have a lot of players who are either very experienced and have the ability to draw on that experience and apply it in game very easily and very concisely when giving like instruction to others. And then you also have players on the younger side who are really willing to learn and who are two insane grinders in APA and Yon, right? And I think having UMT in the middle gives your team a really specific dynamic where, like, he jokes about this all the time. And he's generally a pretty easygoing, like, person. He's very much a mood maker. That doesn't mean he doesn't have an incredible desire to win, because he does. Like, this is a player who's been through a lot of adversity in his LCK career. But I think it creates a really interesting dynamic where a lot of his worst tendencies of like being overly aggressive or feel like he needs to be the person who makes the big play is reeled back in by very stabilizing, experienced influences and decision makers in core and impact. And I don't think that's not to say that they're making all the decisions on the team. I'm just saying that already creates a very interesting dynamic, especially with Spawn as a coach who's going to be drilling them a lot, who's going to be, even in their wins, really focusing on the mistakes they make and keeping them very focused. I also think one beneficiary that TL have that Blabber brought up in his interview, I think it was Bwippo actually. Blabber might have brought it up off camera too when I was talking to him. But it's also that they have very experienced players who can draw on, like, when the entire thing shifted to lane swaps and stuff like that, you have Impact and Core who were brought up in that environment. Like, Impact has seen so many different styles of my top laner gets fucked because we're lane swapping. He's seen every single iteration of how to get screwed by a lane swap that probably exists as a top laner. And so having that knowledge and being able to bring it to players who absorb information and who take direction and have incredible desire to win, like Jan and APA, I think is a kind of internal alchemy that's like very difficult to replicate. And to your second point, I think it's weirdly a very dangerous time for them as well, because if they do want to end up making noise internationally, first of all, they need to stay focused enough to qualify domestically, which they've already set themselves in a good position to do, right? But then they also have to keep themselves hungry in a situation where they may not be challenged as well as they would like to be until they go boot camp, right? So it's a weird and interesting time for this TL roster, but they have every single like thing in place to be great, which is very interesting to me, both like internally in terms of how these personalities work and the infrastructure in place, not only from TL to org, but Spawn as a coach, Brainover as a coach. then also within the player personalities themselves. I don't know. They're a very, very interesting team. I feel like that part is almost undersold by also like how fun they are to watch, and like the personalities they do have on the team that really, really shine. In particular, APA, who, as we already covered, has kind of become the main character of LCS this past year.
Yeah. I asked over in YouTube and Twitch chat, especially YouTube chat, what people think of Team Liquid the split, and would love to hear from everybody. Cubby, what do you think of this take?
When you said like defeating the tropes, I was in the Travis camp where I just thought like the roster creation, right? We haven't seen like TL, and keep in mind the last 2 years, TL's team would not have worked or existed without the existence of their secondary team in Challengers. Like that's how they got Yon and Harry in the first place. That's how APA stepped in, and that's how like they knew that Spawn was able to step in and be a part of the org and be the head coach as well. It just feels like they put the right pieces around the younger players this time around, and that's not the approach that we've seen from TL until the last 2 years. So for me, like that's kind of the trope that they've defeated. In terms of other stuff, I mean, I gotta say, I mean, I watched Spawn's teams in my league for Challengers for 2 straight years, and I see a lot of the same like disciplined, like very decision tree going down the tree, like making that I feel like Spawn's teams had. The only downside that his teams had is that you are expected to be able to play the game from like when you spawn on the rift till the end. And if you pick champs where you're not able to execute early, sometimes it just can like fall flat on their face. But he always is going to make sure that you're able to play the game, like to win, right? Which I really appreciate. I don't know. I just feel like this team is like massively stepped up. I don't really know what tropes like are defeated because like for me, I've always seen Impact as someone that can play carries. I just feel like he was known as like being on tanks. And there were bot metas where, as Emily was describing, you would TP bot at 5 minutes and 5v5 in top lane, just like didn't matter. I think that Impact's always been able to play carries. He just wasn't as necessary in top lane. And I do want to throw him out there for being a grinder too. Like Impact and Core, to be this good for this long, you have to have a lot of motivation, and they've been able to do it. And that changes as you get older and your life goals change, but their form really hasn't, which I think is very impressive to both of them. So I don't know. I feel like the one trope I see TL toppling is the fact that this team was made internally, and we haven't seen that in the past. And I think that's the thing that's further impressive about TL and this run that they're on, is that they really did build this themselves and made some adjustments along the way to make sure it worked, kind of like what NRG did. And they made it work.
Hey, thanks so much, Basket of Knives. Anything you'd add here at the end?
Just overall, again, shout out to you guys. Shout out to the LCS broadcast crew, all the talent crew. Emily, I've always loved your content, even back in ye old ESPN esports days. So I've always been appreciative of all the people that work so hard in the industry and do so much stuff on the side to show their love and passion for it. So really appreciate it, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out? I know that was kind of a shout out, but I don't know. I usually give you a chance to wrap up, and then if there's anything specific you want to shout out.
I don't think so. I mean, I made a video back when APA was back in Maryville where I did a long interview with him two years ago now, and it's crazy to look back at that interview about his goals to be in LCS, and then now him being in LCS and being a top performer there. So if people want to check that out, that's over on my YouTube channel. Just JT Sim is my YouTube channel. I literally have 1 subscriber. I don't do much with it anymore, but it's a fun little piece of content, and it was back in the good old CL days. So
yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we got one final break, and then we got another caller to close out the show. Really quickly, though, I want to talk to you all about Kia, our sponsor for this evening, this show, and a sponsor for a lot of our LCS Summer Split coverage. We have another surprise test that came out recently. Go check that out. They sponsored that, but we also have some really cool interviews coming out with some of the casters based off of what inspires them. Emily might recall that we did that earlier this split. But speaking of Kia, I want to let you all know that maybe it's a good time for you to check out the 2025 Kia K4. Obviously, we've talked a lot about the EV9, but for some folks, you might be looking for a compact sedan with more room, cool tech, and available turbocharged fun, and that's what the 2025 K4 is. It elevates interior roominess in the compact sedan segment with class-leading rear legroom and headroom. It's also got innovative technology for the sedans segment of cars with available multi-segment cockpit display with a combined nearly 30 inches of digital instrumentation and awesome things like advanced connectivity and OTA capabilities with an ultra-wideband digital key 2.0 that's available as well. It's got just an amazing set of technologies in it. You can get, for instance, a blind spot view monitor, 360-degree surround view monitor, and there's options like the emergency evasive steering assist. So just a really cool sedan that they have brought in is a new name for this vehicle. It's got new standards for design, technology, and roominess, and it's just going to be awesome. It's available expected a time around the second half of 2024, so right around now. But go check out the 2025 Kia K4 at your local Kia dealership. Start doing some research, maybe think about picking one up if you're looking to get into a compact sedan, again, with more room, awesome technology, and available turbocharged fun. So thanks to Kia for sponsoring this show. All right. We've got one last caller coming in. Excited to have them come in. Franz is here. Franz, where are you calling from?
Hey, calling from Orange County, California.
Orange County, California. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I was happy to see Tomo in the LCS this weekend on 100 Thieves. I really liked Meech, but I think he was just slumping, and 100T making the change. They looked a lot better, and ultimately I think hopefully for me as a fan of them, it's an indication that they will be staying in the LCS. I would be bummed if they were leaving, and I think this shows that they're looking to improve and looking towards the future.
Yeah, I would say, like, I feel like GMs who are making roster change decisions are probably not the people who are deciding whether or not players are coming in and out of the league, especially for a team like Dignitas. Teams are coming in and out of the league, especially for a team like Dignitas. But I will agree that it was cool to see Dignitas start to step up. Cubby, what do you make of Dignitas after this weekend's performance?
Like Dig themselves, like as a squad, because I know Tomo stepped into 100 Thieves.
I was saying 100 Thieves. I don't know why I said Dig.
I mean, it was Tomo's old team.
It's the end. I realized that's why I said Dig, but it's just been a long.
No, we're good. It was funny. Like, we had Sniper tweet about his own mental health and open up about it. We had Meech step down because of it. And Tomo stepped in, and I don't know, I was just happy to see the 100 Thieves team kind of like laughing and feel like they were having a good time on stage. I know it's probably been a tough split for them, is like being young players and starting out winning, and now like having a complete meta change and really almost kind of going through it. I think that this is a tough crew, and I very much agree with what Emily was talking about earlier when it came to this team and kind of their struggles at the meta and how it changed to really, I say, not like accentuate some of the strengths they had as much as spring. I don't know. Like, for me, when I saw that Meech was stepping down, I was like, it's got to be Tomo. I feel like Tomo was like the only option in terms of the players that we have in Challengers League. Given experience that he has, our other good ADs right now have not played LCS before, and I feel like stepping in mid-split would be difficult. So I was just happy to see, Tomo playing well, and I do think that 100 Thieves bot lane, like with Meech, wasn't performing the split, and with Tomo, they played better in their first series, and if they step up for the next one, they need to make sure they can make playoffs. So I was happy to see Tomo get an opportunity. He has been pretty solid in Challengers League, the split. My thing with Tomo is that he's always been a good laner. It's just he can't always transition it to team fights, and sometimes he takes some mid waves that he shouldn't. And I'm seeing that it was a little bit better this split in Challengers, and I wasn't sure if that was just because of the level of play, and he was finding more leads, or because he's more aware of that. So that's something I'm looking out for as we see more of him in LCS.
Yeah. Emily, I don't know if you want to chime in.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I agree with what Cubby says about Tomo as a player. I think when the only thing I was nervous about, or not nervous about, but the concern I had with him joining this team is that typically 100 Thieves have looked at their best when they've played around their solo laners and had the kind of approach where they're either counterpicking top for sniper, or they're having something that can combo really well with what River wants to play, like when people kept giving them Talia Vi for some reason and they just kept smashing people with it. And then bot lane was more of a facilitative bot lane, or something like a Senna. They also ran, I believe, the Karma Seraphine, stuff like that. And when this team looked at their best, that was their play style, right? And so they've already struggled to fit in this meta. And my fear with Tomo joining this team was that when he was on Dig, him and Isles were a very sneakily good 2v2.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the community didn't give them nearly enough credit for going up against the bot lanes that they did and coming out even or ahead, especially when they played these 2v2 pushing bot lanes. It also gave XU an easy lane to path around. And that was kind of Dig's success last split, right? Is like XU is coming bot, they're setting up a bot dive, they're really helping, or he's just going there to cover the extra, add extra amount of pressure to the bot side so that they can have Drake control, so that XU can invade or go for a wraparound gank if they want to go for a dive, or if they want to go for a 3v2. And I did not see this 100 Thieves team necessarily going to that style for him and Ayla, but talking to Golden Glue, apparently they had a really, like, a much better week of scrims. It sounds like he's been able to step onto the team and their performance internally has improved. And that could just be because, unfortunately, Meech was struggling and had to step down, and like that also sucks. Like, it really sucks. I know personally, and I think I've been like pretty open about the fact that I struggle with mental health issues like pretty constantly. And I know how that is, and that's like a really shitty feeling, to feel like you have to remove yourself. But that was my fear with Tomo coming onto this lineup, and that is not what happened, right? And the big thing was that he was able to perform in team fights even with a few mistakes, like some kind of few mechanical like misplays here and there, especially when they were like swapping up lane assignments and stuff. But going forward, it'll be interesting to see him in the final week, because if he can perform in team fights, I think it adds a extra like facet to this team that they didn't necessarily have previously.
Yeah, I am excited to see what they can do in this final weekend. I like, for me, obviously, with the exception of Immortals, it's been pretty cool to see a lot of the stories get pretty exciting in the last week or so, especially as we're heading into this weekend, which I guess is a good way to kind of wind down the show. It's just to say, like, I think there's a lot of interesting things that we'll find out in this weekend's matches. I mean, the Shopify 100 Thieves match in particular is going to be really, really wild to see. So, yeah, excited about it. Caller, do you have anything else to add here?
Not necessarily. I just think I root for 100 Thieves. I love Sniper. I've been to the LCS a couple times this year, and I've taken pictures with the team, and every time Sniper is just so stoked to see all the fans. And shout out to him, shout out to the whole team. So yeah, I was just really glad to see them doing well. I want them to stay in the league. I want them to be to be a title contending team again in the future. So hopefully that day comes.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully it comes. Thank you so much, Franz, for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Shout out NZXT, shout out Kia, shout out PrizePicks. I literally need to buy a car, a computer, and have been wanting to spend some money. So I'm gonna look into those brands. I need a gaming chair and a new desk. So any sponsors out there want to sponsor Travis, whoever does, I will buy your products. Shout out to this is just one thing I want to say to the general community. I would love to come on Hotline League one day and debate vehemently that Bjergsen is the obvious GOAT over Doublelift still. I know sentiment has shifted, and I see that quite a lot. But one day, if anyone wants to have that debate, I think Doublelift has an argument, but I think it is clear that Bjergsen is still the GOAT. So if anyone wants to have that argument, feel free to pull me.
Yeah, I would. It would
I'll
be
be team
difficult for me
Doublelift.
to agree with that, but I appreciate it.
Cubby's already preparing his argument.
No,
Yeah,
the reason
it's always been double lift. I'm sorry.
the reason I say that is because I think, Cubby, I think you said in passing one time, like, oh yeah, sometimes we say Bjergsen because he was like a nice guy.
Yeah.
And oh man, I think over time, over that period of the LCS, I just think Bjergsen is the better player. But that's okay. We can talk about that another time. I know we're over time.
Franz, thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
So if you're watching live, please don't go anywhere. I have a fun sponsored stream coming up, and people who stick around and can keep me company and perhaps engage with our sponsor stream, that would be of a great assistance to the stream. It's always, I love to see all of you guys continue to chat, and it's oftentimes easier for me to talk to both the YouTube chat and the Twitch chat after the show's done. But before I move into that, I think it's time for us to wind down the show. Cubby, what do you want to shout out? What do you want to plug?
Not much. Shout out to you if you guys want to follow me. It's CubbyXX everywhere, and I will have VOD reviews later on this week. The stock portfolio took priority and they ruined my sleep schedule today. But no other shout outs. Thanks to Emily for coming on. It's been a while. And yeah, always appreciate Emily. Always does her homework and has really good takes alongside of that. So thanks,
Emily, thank you so much for coming on the show. I will echo Cubby's shout out there. What would you like to shout out or plug?
So let's see. Shout out to, just generally, my coworkers on the LCS broadcast. Like, they're all awesome. I still feel like so fortunate to be a part of this team, and I felt like nothing but support from everyone I've worked with, which I feel like a lot of people can't say. Like, I'm a very lucky person. So shout out to them. Shout out to Kelsey. We do a show called Making the Rounds. It's been pretty troll in terms of when we've been streaming, but tentatively we're now on Thursdays because it's a better day for both of us. We had some weeks because she has been traveling a bit, and I went home to visit my mom. But we should be on Thursdays now. Crossing my fingers that nothing catastrophic happens. We have to move again. And then, yeah, I'm probably finally, I think I said this the last time I was on, which is like a half a year ago, probably at this point. But I've been writing a lot, and hopefully we'll have a website and actually start potentially getting things published, which should be fun. So yeah, look out for that because I'll tweet about it when it happens.
That's awesome.
That makes me very excited.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. It's always been wonderful to read your writing, so I'm excited to hear about that. For me, again, thank you to Emily for coming on the show. If you are interested in playing Magic with me, I'll be at Command Fest next week, Command Fest Los Angeles. You can look it up. There's going to be a ton of other really cool creators that I've helped bring in, and also some of the normal Magic crew who are also great creators there as well. But a big shout out to LCS. I had a really great time watching it this weekend. I think they created, just as always this year, a very smooth and good broadcast with quick turnarounds during these. Sunday we had 6 games, and the turnarounds were super fast, which I think is so great. And I'm excited for this weekend as we move into the final weekend of regular season with some really big things on the line, some really exciting games. So we'll see how it goes, especially that Cloud9 FlyQuest game. I'm really excited to see what ends up happening. So tune into LCS this weekend. For everyone else, thanks for watching the show. Please stick around. As I mentioned earlier, it'd be awesome to have you all here as I do a fun stream afterwards. And we'll see you next week for another episode of Hotline League.